No. Anyone?
We are now.
I would like to welcome you all to the Thursday, November 14th, 2024 meeting of the Bellingham Planning Board. Since this week is Veterans Week, and I'd like you to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a rather robust agenda. We're going to move a couple of things around. Rob, can you talk to us about the meetings for 2025?
Yeah, so everybody should have in their packets the meeting dates, which is everything on here. It's the second and fourth Thursday of the month for our normal schedule, with one meeting in July, one meeting in August, one meeting in November, and one meeting in December, 2 meetings every other month per usual. I took a look to make sure there weren't any conflicts, and yeah, so I figured we should just vote to approve these first in case anything gets continued into January.
Okay,
Hard to believe we are already coming to a close of 2024.
I would entertain a motion to approve the proposed meeting dates for the Bellingham Planning Board for 2025.
So.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I'd like to call for the vote and also as means of attendance. Liz? You can vote on the meetings.
Okay, aye.
Nick, aye.
Brian, I.
Bill, aye.
Bill, I. Steve, I.
So that motion passes unanimously. We also want to discuss a continuance, I believe,
Yes,
for Prospect Hill Village.
correct. So that was just requested 5 minutes ago. I don't want to discuss too much about it, obviously, because they're requesting the continuance. The applicant did drop off some information that he would like to discuss at the December 12th meeting.
Is that agenda full or open
Right now, we have one item on
or,
it,
okay.
so.
I would like to call for the motion for continuance on Prospect Hill Village to our December meeting.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second, Nick.
Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Nick, aye.
Brian, I.
Bill, aye.
Bill, I. Steve, I. For your.
That motion passes unanimously. We're now going to combine two agenda items. They deal with 306 Maple Street. The first one is a public hearing for 306 Maple Street, definitive subdivision. The applicant and owner, 306 Maple LLC, located at 5 Commonwealth Road, Suite 1A, Natick, Massachusetts, 01760, proposes to construct a non-residential definitive subdivision plan at 306 Maple Street in Bellingham, approximately 11.5 plus or minus acres of land, shown on Assessor's Map 37 Lot 6A, zoned industrial. The definitive subdivision plan depicts a 200 plus or minus foot roadway terminating with the cul-de-sac. The roadway serves as access and frontage for 2 new lots containing 5.4 acres and 5.8 acres. The plans are prepared by Allen Engineering and Associates, 140 Hartford Avenue, Hopedale, Mass. 01747. In addition, continuation of the public hearing on Maple Street, Scenic Road Special Permit. In accordance with the Town of Bellingham bylaws, subsection 154-4, Scenic Road, and a special permit under 240-59H-2, the planning board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, October 24th at 7 p.m. at 10 Mechanic Street, 02019. The applicant, Maple Street Development LLC, would like to provide a 30-foot wide driveway, access, and removal of trees, which will be replaced with nursery-grade trees, and also reduction in parking requirements from 38 spaces to 29 spaces, as shown on Assessors Map 37, parcels 3 and 3A, parcel 6A zone industrial.
Oh, hold on a minute, Bill. Hold on. You opened up 306 Maple
Yep.
Street definitive subdivision.
Yep,
That is separate from the
Oh, I'm sorry.
item that you're about to.
I thought you wanted to combine.
No, this is, we'll get to that's a separate project.
Okay.
This is the definitive subdivision for
Okay,
306 Maple Street.
you could have told me a little earlier.
I was wondering what,
I
I'm
was
sorry.
going to, but I didn't want to be rude.
Yeah, I
Fine.
apologize.
No problem.
Whew, thank goodness that was caught before the motion was made. So it's just the definitive subdivision that we're opening right now.
You want to bring us up to speed?
Yeah, I certainly can. So if you recall, there was a preliminary subdivision plan that was filed a few months ago. This is the second part of that subdivision submittal. We had the preliminary one, and this is all really part of the zone freeze that the applicant has the right to do. Basically, it's a pretty small roadway on this industrial lot, and it's really just a zoning exercise at this point. I can go through how this has met the decision criteria, but there's a few items which I think Mike can mention that I did submit a staff checklist, which had basically some waivers that really would be captured in a development plan approval, which is something that if this were to be built, that would have to come down the road when there's an actual use and such that was actually designed for this. So I don't know, Mike, if you want to take it away, Mr. Chair, I guess you would be making the decision.
Sure,
And then I
happy
can
That's fine,
follow up
Mike,
with
go ahead.
recommendation.
Floor is yours.
Happy to. My name is Michael Dryden. I'm a senior project manager with Allen Engineering. And as Rob had mentioned, we were here previously with the preliminary subdivision, which is the first step in the process to freeze the zoning. But just to back up a little bit, of course, development plan approval was issued for a 60,000 square foot warehouse on this project site, which is what my client intends to move forward with eventually. As we all know, this process is simply a formality. The process that we're talking about tonight is simply a formality to freeze the zoning. And that is under the provisions of MGL chapter 48, section 6, paragraph 5. Just to let you know where that exactly comes from. So once the definitive plan is approved by this board, that will start an 8-year period that freezes the pre-existing zoning that was afforded to accommodate the warehouse project. So this is sort of an unusual thing because we want to put forth a waiver-free plan in terms of dimensional aspects. Certainly, we don't need any waivers whatsoever for dimensional aspects, engineering aspects of the project. I think what Mr. Lucier has outlined in his memo was a few sort of formalities under the procedural rules. And I'm happy to go through each of those, but we would respectfully request that to spend a lot of time and energy on this, on the procedural rules, really doesn't make a lot of sense because of its purpose to freeze zoning. But I'll certainly leave that up to the board members to decide if you agree with that assertion.
In essence, it's just like a placeholder.
It's not even that. It's a very unusual process. Again, in order to just maintain the zoning that allowed that initial 60,000 square foot warehouse, MGL 48 section 6 includes a provision that allows you to file a preliminary subdivision, follow that up within 7 months with a definitive subdivision, and upon approval, you simply freeze the zoning. So it's not a placeholder for anything, really.
Okay.
That's why we kept this plan as simple as it possibly could be, just to call it a definitive subdivision. We have a 200-foot long roadway, 2 lots. We wanted to keep it as simple and painless as possible.
Okay. What's your feeling?
So, as Mike mentioned, there's a couple, or as I mentioned earlier too, there's a couple waiver requests that I think we should just have on file. But essentially, since, as I mentioned, it's really just a zoning exercise in this case, and the lots do meet the subdivision regulations. The roadway design itself as well meets our subdivision regulations. There's requirements for width of the right of way. This one, it meets for a minor street. And there's width requirements, curbing requirements. There's also apparatus requirements to allow for emergency access, which the chief has weighed in on that. So that, which this meets those requirements. There's also grade requirements as well. From the stormwater perspective, there was a drainage analysis that was submitted as well as part of this. Now, from what I understand, the basin was actually designed, it's really the same design as the initial plan, the development plan approval for the large warehouse for that site. So it's actually over-designed for just a roadway, but from the perspective of this exercise, I think that was just the applicant trying to utilize the resources that were already
Right.
made for
Okay.
the initial design. Now, with that, the stormwater criteria and design, that falls under the development plan approval criteria, which, mind you, as you all know, that's a lengthy process. There's a lot involved with the development plan approval. We're talking about traffic analysis. You're talking about the stormwater side of things. There's also some zoning aspects in there as well. But because this is just a zoning exercise, it kind of eliminates the stormwater approval. So what I would recommend is that I would like to draft a decision with conditions that basically outlines prior to construction, if this were to ever be built, which there's no intent for it to be built, but if it were to, it would have to come right back in front of the board for a full review of the stormwater, traffic, the use itself. And essentially, it would be kind of set up like a preliminary subdivision where kind of giving recommendations, but it can't actually be built. So that's how I would like to proceed with this, if the board agrees. Hopefully you do. I wouldn't want to spend too much time on this. I know we have a lot of agenda items coming up, and I anticipate a few more submittals in the coming months.
Okay,
So I would, for something like this where it isn't going to be built, I would like to condition it and really move along,
Okay.
essentially, if that makes sense.
yep. Anyone have any questions on the board? Anyone have?
I do.
Sure.
The other plan, does it get withdrawn?
The development plan approval?
The other one, yeah.
No,
No,
Does this
again-
supersede it?
no, this is a separate submission,
There's
completely
a
separate.
Parallel?
Yeah.
So they could still build the other one?
Yeah. Because I mean, you can have multiple development plan approvals for the same project or the same site, you just have multiple approvals, so,
Doesn't affect the status of the other one at
no,
all?
no.
What are you looking for us, a motion to approve on some sort of conditions?
No, I wouldn't, I would wait until I draft up the decision for everybody to view, and we can have it, posted so everybody can see it, and then we can have I would recommend a lengthier discussion on December 12th when you actually have that in front of you. Because I think that there's ways to make the board feel comfortable where if it were to be built, like I said, it would come right back in front of the board prior to construction. So, what I would recommend is a continuance to December 12th and, have a discussion there. And if the board, I don't think it has to be a motion, but if the board feels comfortable with me drafting a decision on this, I can do so for the December 12th meeting.
I would entertain a motion to continue this to December 12th.
Before you do that,
Um,
I would recommend opening up to any questions
Yes,
from
I
the
will.
public, so.
Does the public have any questions? Is anyone here for this item this evening?
And just one comment.
Yes, sir, can you
Steve
state your
Kohler.
name and address?
Steve Kohler, Stonehenge Road. No questions on the basis of the understanding that this isn't gonna happen. Okay.
If it were to happen, it would be a lengthy planning board.
Standard process.
Correct. Yep.
I'll move to continue to December, the December 12th meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any additional discussion? I will call for the vote.
Nick, got.
Brian, I.
Bill, aye.
Steve, aye.
That motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
See you on the 12th.
Good night, Mike.
Thank you, you as well.
The next item on the agenda is a continuation of the public hearing for LMP Scenic Road. Rob, you want to bring us up to speed on that?
Sure. So, hello, Kim. So applicant is here. I think we're all pretty familiar with this project. This is the Morph operation that LMP owns. This is specifically for a scenic road permit with basically it covers the removal of trees and stone walls on Maple Street, as well as the noise ordinance associated with scenic roads. Regarding, well, I can let do you want to take it away or?
Either way is fine with me. I'm happy to describe the application, sure. So, for the record, Kim Crowa, I'm the attorney for LMP Properties. Good to see several of you again. Quite a few of you will remember some of the history with it, but just sort of a quick overview. LMP Properties owns, as relevant to this application, 161 and 169 Maple Street. That is 169 Maple Street is the location of part of JD Raymond Transport's mulch operation. There's another operation on the other side of the street at 174. So there's also a single family home at 161 Maple Street. So the properties we're talking about are 169 that's surrounded by the woods and 161 where the single family house is next to it. LMP had gone through the Conservation Commission process and received an order of conditions to put a stormwater system in at the property. And that stormwater system is designed where it will essentially take the place of the single family home at 161 Maple Street. And it will serve the existing business at 169 Maple Street. And after that order of conditions went into place, we filed an application for development plan approval with this board. And that was based on the threshold in the zoning bylaw that the stormwater system would have a higher land disturbance than one of the triggers in the development plan bylaw. During that application process, there was quite a bit of back and forth on the characteristics of the existing business, the mulch use specifically. There was a approval that came out of this board that included many conditions. I think there were somewhere around 30. We had, on behalf of LMP, had challenged 8 of them, which were the ones that LMP and JD Raymond felt were the most negatively impactful, where they wouldn't be able to necessarily run their business the way that it is used to and beyond the scope of the development plan approval. The planning board decision was upheld by the ZBA. We appealed that to the Superior Court. The Superior Court judge said, we agree with LMP that the development plan approval process, the way that it's structured in the zoning bylaw, looks at the new characteristics of the development, and it doesn't look at the existing business. And where JD Raymond's mulch operation is a lawful pre-existing non-conforming use by way of the Cobb family who operated it before JD Raymond came in 2013. The judge said, we're only going to look at the new parts of the development, and those challenged conditions are all stricken from the development plan approval. So the parts of the development plan approval that led to this application are the retaining wall and the timber wall. Even though the Conservation Commission plans dealt with stormwater, They also included some considerations with the existing business, and part of that was putting in a retaining wall and putting a timber sound wall on top of it in front of Maple Street. Constructing the retaining wall and the timber sound wall will require the removal of one tree that, a couple of smaller trees, a couple of stumps, but one tree that meets the definition in the scenic road bylaw. And so we filed this application to be able to check off all the boxes that we feel like need to be checked to actually start putting in those upgrades. So of the conditions that the Superior Court struck, condition 11, that came out of the planning board decision, essentially said that JD Raymond needs to have noise studies ongoing that ensure compliance with the zoning noise bylaw and the scenic road noise bylaw. And that should be provided at the outset, once the wall was built, and then ongoing. And I can't remember exactly how often they were supposed to be provided. So the judge struck that one and actually struck the one about the timber sound wall being 8 feet. Now we've submitted the application. We are still intending to build what's set forth in the Conservation Commission process, but the reason that we're filing this application is because the sound wall that we're looking to upgrade the conditions along Maple Street for the neighbors are leading to this application. And so we're hoping to not really have to revisit the noise question and the periodic assessments and all the different reports, because what we're bringing in front of this board tonight is an upgrade to the current situation and trying to check off the remaining aspects of that approval to be able to move forward.
Thank you.
My turn.
Yes.
Thank you. So I did put together a staff memo for this with a checklist with items, which the submittal itself pretty much hits everything. Since the two items that are really critical here are the trees, walls, and the noise. So trees, there's actually more proposed than what is required for the mitigation for that one tree to be removed. There's no stone walls. The big question is the noise. So we received, pretty much it was the landscape plan in the submittal. We didn't really receive any items regarding the noise or the sound barrier. So I feel that there should be just some additional detail on that wall. There was a noise study done previously, part of the development plan approval. I do not want to start taking items from the development plan approval and including this as part of the record, because I don't know what is still relevant, and it should be up to the applicant to submit the relevant information. But I do believe that we should get some information just regarding the adequacy of that wall. The other question is regarding the compliance with the bylaws. So we have noise bylaws in our zoning bylaws, and correct me if I'm wrong, but really the Superior Court decision with the development plan approval struck a lot of the decisions because the conditions were associated with what they claimed an existing non-conforming use, grandfathered. After talking with our town council briefly about this, the scenic road bylaw is not a zoning bylaw, it's in our general bylaws, which it's a little bit different. So with that, regarding the conformance, what I would like to do is have him and our town council discuss this conformance situation. And I think it would make sense at a next meeting to have our town council here to discuss this, when we also have additional information regarding the noise study and just details on the wall for the record. That's how I feel we should proceed. Sorry, that was a mouthful.
I'm in agreement. I want to have other board members chime in.
Nothing to add right now. I agree.
Okay.
I think that's reasonable.
We're gonna get one shot at this. I would like to make sure it's right.
I agree, yeah.
So I think we should slow down a little bit.
Yep, and
And,
I'd like
look
to,
out for the neighbors.
yep, Do we wanna-
Reduce the sound as best we can.
The landscape plan, we can look at that next time too, just to.
Of
for the
course,
public.
yep, and you have,
It's in there.
okay, good,
I've seen it.
Yep.
It's a small version.
yeah, if there's any,
I'd like to do that for the public. at least.
sure, yeah, if you have any comments, it might be good to bring up, if there's any issues tonight, but
You know, next time.
perfect,
No comment.
Okay,
okay.
so I would entertain,
The gentleman. Yeah, but
yes, sir.
Steve Kohler, this is a comment from Conservation. There's been some discussion that there may not be compliance on that site with the fire access road on the outer perimeter. That the logs that were asked to be put there have been removed in portions. Can that be looked into? I think you were part of that,
Yeah, definitely, and as I'm getting up to speed with the decision of the development plan approval, there's a lot tied to it,
Make
including
sure that stays on the
conservation.
list.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll need to look further into it.
Thank you.
Yeah, out of curiosity, Kim, do you know what I know that there's a lot tied to the project with different boards. Has the applicant indicated when they intend to do the improvements? I assume when the scenic road permit, if there's an approval, that's kind of the last bit.
Right, we believe this is the last bit before
Okay.
they can start actually doing the work that's on there.
Okay, gotcha.
And yeah, I didn't know about the logs, but I can certainly talk to them about that.
Okay, excellent. Yep.
Are you thinking December 12th?
No,
I'm thinking January.
yeah, what I think when we discussed earlier, the first meeting in January would probably work.
Right, so I know I have a conflict December 12th. I have another town that meets the same night, and so I know they're on December 12th, and so I think January would work. There's a slight chance that I end up with a conflict, but I don't think so with that one. So that would, I think if we go for January, that should work out well on our end.
Okay, so that would be January 9th is the first meeting, and then the second meeting is January 23rd.
So, maybe if we could actually do January 23rd, that way I can make sure that there's not that overlap.
Yep, works with me. So that will be the continuation, and then
Do we need any other dates adjusted?
yes, so our decision deadline is currently December 13th, so I'd like to push that at least a meeting beyond the continuation date, which that would be the next meeting's February 13th. So actually, can we do, the second meeting is February 27th. Can we do February 28th for the extension?
Sure,
Okay,
yeah,
does
that'll be fine.
that work with everybody?
All right. Anything else on public? Mr. Kohler, thank you. Do you need, one motion or two for the dates?
I think you just need a motion to continue to January 23rd.
And a motion to extend this to January 23rd, our second meeting.
Second, Nick, I just get a signature on
Any further discussion? Call for the vote.
Nick, aye.
Brian, I.
Bill, aye.
Bill,
The motion passes unanimously. We'll see you on January
All
23rd
right, see you then.
and
Thank you.
enjoy your holidays.
All right, you do the same.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kim.
All right, no problem. Thank you.
Have a good one.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
What would you like to do next?
All right, so the next one is, man, we are doing good tonight.
Hey.
Sorry.
Hey.
Wood.
God.
I'm sorry, chief, I'm giddy. This is great.
You're gonna
This never happens.
jinx yourself.
I know. Where's the agenda? Now I'm becoming a mess.
Maple Street?
Yeah, so 0 Maple Street is next. So the first item is a continuance, and that's the development plan approval that was, and the stormwater management site plan approval that was initially already open.
Okay.
The second part is the item that you were beginning to open. This is the first public hearing associated with the scenic road and the special permit for the flex parking. So I would recommend. Well, the first public hearing's already open, but I would recommend also opening that scenic road special permit. Because they're both the same project, we can discuss both in unison.
I got it.
Bill?
In accordance with the town of Bellingham bylaw, section 154-4, scenic road and special permit under 240-59 H2. Planning board will hold public meeting on Thursday, October 24th at 7 o'clock at 10 Panic Street, Bellingham, Mass. The applicant, Maple Street Development LLC, would like to provide a 30-foot wide driveway, access and removal of trees, which will be replaced with a nursery grade tree and also reduction in parking requirements from 38 spaces to 29 spaces, as shown on assessment map 37, parcel 3 and 3A. A parcel 6A zone industrial. The plans were prepared by Independent Engineering, Inc., 33 Commercial Street, Raynham, Minutes, 02767.
Entertain a motion.
So
Do I have a second?
Second.
And we'll technically open the public hearing, correct?
Yep, you're both open. So, oh, sorry.
All
David,
for the vote.
aye.
Brian, I.
Bill, aye.
Steve, I.
Motion passes then. Now both items, so
Yes, so
technically,
just, you want just an update to get up to
Yes.
speed, because it's been a while since this has actually been back in front of you. It's been continued quite a few times. So if you recall where this left off, there was a 20,000 square foot industrial building, right? Yeah, 19. Yeah.
Call it 19.
Okay, 19,000 square foot industrial building with associated parking. It went to peer review. There's a pretty lengthy peer review letter that came back. Since then, the project has been reduced, rather than having a building with 2 loading docks in the front, it's now a 15,000 square foot building that has its overhead doors. I believe the intent is really to have like contractors or
Contractor / trades type phase.
correct. So, it's been reduced, the footprint, which is helpful, because I know that was mostly, a lot of the comments were generated from the amount of development in a short, or in a small envelope. Now with that, we just received the peer review letter back this morning. It's in your packets. We don't need to discuss it because I'm sure nobody has had a chance to review it. I will say that, most of the comments were addressed, which is, they did a very good job of addressing the comments. There's a few outlying ones, that are gonna need to be addressed, but overall, it's a pretty good letter. There's a few items that I have, which I would like to hold off on until I really feel that, the new material should be presented to the board. Mind you, this is the first time the board has really been presented this information and having a chance to comment on it, so, anyway, at this point, if you want the applicant to take it away.
gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Sure, Brian Falk, from Ira O'Connell here on behalf of the applicant Maple Street Development LLC. With me is Shane Oates from Independence Engineering, and Shane is gonna take it from here.
Excuse me, just to be transparent, there's no relationship between his firm and my family. Thank you.
Good evening, Shane Oates with Independence Engineering. I thought it was, what I've done really quickly is just, this is the previous plan that we presented to the board, I think was probably at the June hearing. This plan was in response to about 12 to 15 comments from the board we received at our first hearing in May. So just to kind of recap what Rob went over, It was a building just under 19,000 square feet. We had two large driveways, 40 feet wide, to access truck docks, sunken truck docks, some access out back. But that was generally the layout, so it was a little bit wider than it is now, and a little bit deeper. I just wanted to quickly, this again was the grading plan, again showing, as you go down Maple Street, basically, the driveway was becoming a bit steeper, which was a little bit of a challenge at that time as well, but we were using underground storage as well for our infiltration and to attenuate our peak flows, so. The new layout, which Rob briefly described, I'll go over.
Which
So-
that's what's on these screens, by the way,
Yes, sorry.
for the public. Sorry.
So the new building, so that previous building, 19,000 square feet plus or minus, was anticipated for two tenants, so it was a pretty, just under 10,000 square feet per unit. So in this iteration, building got a little narrower, a little less deep, helped reduce some of our riverfront area disturbance, which will go a long way with Conservation Commission. We gave some construction tolerance to the retaining walls that are going to be constructed around the site as well, per the peer review. So this building is 5 units of 3,000 square feet each for a total of 15,000 square feet. What we also did with this is we have eliminated one of the driveways because now we don't need that truck dock access. There's no 18-wheelers proposed to be part of this proposal. These are basically box truck style delivery vehicles. So some overhead doors in the front, in the back, man doors in the back to access maybe a small office if needed. Again, these are for like contractor type bays, trades, mechanical type companies, stuff like
Can
that.
I ask you one question,
You can.
just for the audience?
Yeah.
Could you please describe van doors?
They're basically like 12-foot wide, 10 or 12 feet high, overhead doors that roll up doors, basically, that a box truck, a van could drive through.
Okay,
Nothing, obviously nothing of significant size. Which is why we don't have, a tremendous amount of width in between as well. So as part of this, now that we don't, anticipate those large vehicles, accessing the site, we eliminated, the driveway on the left-hand side. So now we just have one driveway and it's actually 30 feet in width. And this was again, working with the peer review and their concerns as well. This driveway is basically right across from, the existing, Brian Day, business as well. So they almost align perfectly. So those are basically the revisions. Since everything got smaller, disturbance got smaller, some of the walls got smaller. The site did have to come up a little bit to accommodate the stormwater standards. Those were a couple of the other comments we received. So now we're meeting all the stormwater standards 100%. Again, the majority of the site will be infiltrated. So we're meeting our pre and post peak attenuations. We're meeting water quality, and we are recharging probably 5 times the amount that's required by Mass DEP. So just briefly, again, some grading. You can see there's some more contours now on the plan because we're lifting the site up a little bit. But again, we have a facility in the rear, a facility in the front. We are taking the driveway runoff, and that will, we're proposing to tie that into Maple Street, but we're going to add a storm scepter to that. So we're capturing every last bit of runoff from the site and treating it. So again, the driveway will go into a storm scepter and tie into the existing drain line up front. And that'll be submitted and approved by DPW, obviously. Besides that, same type of utility connections. The only other plan I really wanted to go over briefly was the landscaping, because it kind of ties into our scenic road permit. Okay. So we have some proposed landscaping. Obviously, we're gonna landscape with a lot of shrubbery and bushes, some flowering type plants out front and to the side. Which will help, with the aesthetics of the site. We're proposing 10 trees right now, 4-inch caliper minimum. And to kind of piggyback on that scenic road permit, right now, Those 10 trees were proposed during, I think those were calculated when we had 2 driveways, so that would be more than enough. But again, I think it's important to have the site look good for the client, so. So that's really it for the revisions to the site itself. Just to touch briefly on the special permit, so we submitted the special permit for reduction in parking. At the time, I believe the requirement was 38 spaces. We're going to 29. That's it. Let me just double
A
check.
reduction of 9.
Yeah.
I know that much.
So what I found out today, when I was taking a quick look at the plans to refresh myself, is the requirement now is actually 30 spaces, so we have a reduction of 1. So that's obviously not as, not what we thought it was to begin with, but that initial calculation was based on the 19,000 square foot calculation, so. So the requirement is 30, we're providing 29, so hopefully that helps out the board a little bit.
Yeah.
So. And again, the spaces, so what we anticipate for the site is, and the applicant has built many buildings similar to this industrial type style. We're anticipating about 3 employees, maybe, that will be on site at all time, for this type of lease. So maybe 15 employees, and we're still gonna have 29 spaces. So the majority of the spaces will still be unoccupied, is what we expect, so. Yeah, so if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Rob, how much site about, site prep? Removing material?
Yeah, I know that there's a lot of, so let me, here, I've got a few things here just to discuss, because I know that a lot of this is all new to the board too. It's our first discussion. So first thing, I know, fire chief, you had a few comments. I know one of them was regarding the just access around the building with the turn templates, and then there was quite a few that were related more to the building permit side of things, I believe.
Correct. Hydrant, in the back of the building, there's only a hydrant in the front.
Okay.
Requesting a hydrant in the back, where the fire department connection is gonna be, with the sprinkler room gonna be. Obviously, we'll need a set of basic sprinkler, plans for vanilla box, and then as it's upfitted, that's another set of plans that have to be submitted. So we can have our third-party review, look at that, and the sprinkler system we can design for that. We'll be looking for no parking or fire lanes on the sides of the building. Again, I'm not warm and fuzzy with the one entrance and exit, but that's not my call at this point with that building. But I would ask that we have fire lanes on the sides, so we prevent anybody from parking on the sides. Again, this type of building here, I'm trying to put a 41-foot ladder truck around this building. So we need to make sure that the swept path analysis are based off of that vehicle. That's imperative. Again, where's the sprinkler room? Where's the FDC gonna be? That all has to work, and it needs to be a hydrant within 100 feet of the FDC. So I'm looking for a hydrant in the rear of the building as well, too. It only looks like there's only one in the front of the property, and we can see.
Yeah, so we have a turning template based on your vehicle, so I'll make sure I get that over to you.
Thank you.
Tomorrow. Adding a fire hydrant isn't a big deal at all. The only question I had, chief, was we have these striped no parking lanes in the front and the back. You'd like to see them on the sides as well?
Yeah,
Okay.
if I just can stand up quick, like, yes,
Sure.
my concern is, again, a vehicle stopping on the sides. We
Yeah,
don't
parking there.
have a lot of space. There's
Yep.
no space if a vehicle stops on the side of the building
Right,
for us to get by. So I'd
Okay.
like to know parking around all close to that building if possible.
sure, okay. Let me know the thought. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Robert, cut you off. Do you have an idea where you think the sprinkler connections and things are gonna be, or is that a little bit ahead of where you are?
So
right
we
now?
have some preliminary architectural plans. I'll get them over to you as well.
Okay,
And then maybe if you have comments or need further information, the architect can get those too, no problem.
okay, excellent. Thank you.
and you're showing the water lines going into that proposed utility room in the front,
Correct. Yeah,
So-
right here.
because that would be for the sprinkler feed
Yeah,
and domestic.
exactly.
Okay.
Let me go to the utility plan really quickly.
I don't know if you could see that, chief, on the
On this
utility
one here?
plan in the front.
Yep, 2 water lines here, yep.
Yeah,
So I imagine that's probably where your fire control is gonna be.
Yep.
And I assume you're gonna want an exterior door.
Yes,
To the-
yeah, it'll need to be labeled and
Yep.
keyed for us, and yeah, that's all part of it, so we can get into it.
So that's your comments right now,
Right
right?
now, yes.
Okay. And I believe, I know a truck swept analysis did go to you, but it needs to show full,
It needs to show us that
Yeah.
the truck will make that, yes.
which I don't know if that's the new one that you're gonna submit or. There was one that was already.
Yeah.
submitted to The chief, so,
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
just update this one to show the full, yeah.
perfect.
Thank you.
All right, so that's the fire chief's comments. The other items that I have, now that the plan has been revised and the peer review seems to be in line with the design, one of the items that I wanted to mention was cut and fill. We have earth removal regulations.
Yeah.
And what I would recommend for the board, because this is how it has been done in the past, from what I recall. There should be a cut and fill analysis done on the plans. If it trips the earth removal regulations, which is, it's 50 cubic yards within a 12-month span, or 2,500 cubic yards just incidental to construction. And that's a ZBA special permit. Brian, you're probably familiar with those. So, usually it's just a condition of approval that be sought prior to construction. But we're gonna wanna just see it quantified on the plans.
Sure.
So that's the first thing.
Yep.
Onto the two new items for tonight. There's the scenic road permit and then the parking reduction special permit. Starting with the parking reduction special permit, you actually answered one of my questions, because I know there was the reduction in the size of the building. And there are requirements for the reduction. For example, if it's employment density, which is what this pretty much is asking, you can really only allow a reduction of 10 to 15%. Before it was 22%, but this has been reduced to one space basically for that flex parking. So that's within that criteria, which, I mean, that's pretty typical for a use of a building of this use. So that's the special permit. The scenic road permit, as we were discussing with the previous application that we were just talking about, there's two items really that are key for this. There's the noise ordinance and then there's the tree mitigation. I don't believe the trees to be removed were quantified in the application,
Okay.
which we would require that to make sure that the proposed trees meet that regulation. So that's that item.
Yep.
The other one is regarding the noise ordinance. Now, I haven't really, in my history on the board, we've had very few scenic road permits that I've been a part of. So I'm not entirely sure how the board handles the noise mitigation side of things when it comes to a use such as this, where it's not a very heavily used site. What I would recommend, because I don't think there was any real like narrative or anything that would really, I don't want to say quantify the noise, but really describe how this is in conformance with those noise bylaws. I don't know if it would necessarily warrant a sound study, like I said, because this is it's a different use than what we've expected on Maple Street with other projects that have come in. So I don't know how the board feels about the noise side of things, but I do think that there should be some additional information that's submitted just to support the application.
Okay.
I think that covers everything that I have.
Are they familiar with the requirements of the noise permit?
Yeah, I think that was submitted, so,
Okay.
yeah.
So if you can just indicate that you're adding it below,
Okay.
that would be very helpful.
Yeah, I'll put something in
And we can
writing.
document that,
Yeah,
because we want to look out for the neighbors and so on,
yeah,
as best we can. And that was mentioned in the received.
yeah, we expect to be one of the quieter businesses
Okay.
on the street.
That's good. Rob, anything else that you have?
Rob, the only thing sorry to interrupt, the only thing I was wondering is, should we go through like the few outstanding items from CMG, since some of them are gonna rely on the board's take or action.
I mean, it's up to the board. It just came in this morning. If you want to just discuss it, obviously, there's no decision that's gonna be made tonight. It's up to you guys. What you
I would like to hold on, because again, we just got it this morning.
Okay, that's, yes.
And I believe you could probably communicate with him with some parameters.
Yeah, I think so, because a lot of those comments were pretty straightforward,
Yeah,
so.
we're just asking like for a handful of conditions, like the SWIP, which we obviously will have to do a SWIP. So we're asking that to be a condition of approval, items like that.
Yeah, and
And then
typically.
There's a
this-
handful of items we can add to the plan in 5 minutes, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah, typically, like for the SWIP, that's usually conditioned prior to the pre-construction meeting.
Yeah,
That's how we've always handled it, so.
there's some stuff the applicant wants to make sure he's good here before we race, you know how it goes.
Sure, yep, no, I got
Before we
that,
race to the finish line with other things, so.
sure, no, I got
You
you.
know, if I may, just reading through the peer review letter, obviously we just got it today, but it did strike me as everything in there was either a quick plan edit or just something that could be a condition of approval. It didn't have any of the board needs to decide because we're at an impasse. There was none of that. It's really fairly straightforward at this point.
I suspect that's the case.
So,
Yep, absolutely. So there's just a few of these other items that need to be addressed. But we are I think we're getting very close here,
Okay.
but.
What's the next step?
I would recommend a continuance and getting these items addressed and then go on from there. I don't know how long you'll need to. Okay,
That's how long I'll have
okay,
when I get off the phone.
so. I think the heavier lifts are in this is the fire chief's comments. Quantifying the material to be removed isn't a huge lift, but will take a little bit of time, I would say. And then the noise ordinance and tree mitigation might take a little bit of time, so I guess what are you feeling for time? We have,
When's the next, is the hearing the 12th?
yeah, we have December 12th,
Yeah.
and then the next one is January, yes, January 9th. Which I know the holidays are coming up, so
Yeah.
it might make sense to just push this to January 9th.
Well, if there's any way we could go on the 12th and see how my next week goes. Cause some of this stuff I'm gonna be getting some help with. And
Okay.
If I feel like I'm not gonna get information to you and the board in time, I'll reach out way ahead of time.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think that that's fair.
Yeah.
Cause that is a light agenda right now, so.
Okay, so he will need to get items to us by December 19th, is that correct?
By December, well, it's gonna be before December 12th, it's gonna
I'm
be,
sorry, excuse me.
yeah.
So when does he need to get to us by?
It would be, if you're on the December 12th agenda,
Weekend after Thanksgiving.
yeah,
At
it's,
least a week, Thursday before.
it would be the Wednesday before the meeting, so that would be December 4th. So we can get everything in the Dropbox, everybody can review.
Okay,
I see that look, Phil, I know what you're thinking.
what I would offer, what the good thing is at this point, it's on our end. We're not looking for further peer review comments that we don't have control over. So
Yeah, that's
I think you know, I'm not gonna speak for Shane, but I think that's certainly doable, given that it's on our end.
Okay.
Yeah, and if we need to continue it to January 9th, if you don't have sufficient time, just continue it to January 9th.
Okay, was there any question, and I haven't read the peer review because it came in. today.
Yeah, it just came in.
Is there any concern about going from one driveway from two with queuing or anything like that?
That was actually a recommendation of the peer review, to eliminate a
To
driveway
eliminate it?
and to make the 40 feet, 30 feet.
Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
looking at pulling into that, there's, you know. If you had more than one truck or two, you get, is there a queuing issue with box trucks trying to turn into that front? You know, if you got 5 bay doors there, you have the capability of even. bringing-
Yeah, there should be room. There should be enough room. I think there's room for at least 3. after one makes the left-hand turn, but again, I don't think they expect a volume of any significance here for traffic. Very, very light use traffic-wise here.
Getting back to the continuance. Looking at a deadline of, December 4th. Is it fair if you don't think you're gonna meet it? Can you let us know as soon as possible?
Absolutely.
So
Yep.
we can adjust our agenda accordingly.
Sure, of course.
Any questions from the public? Yes, sir. Mr. Kohler, how are you?
Two questions, one's Concom, the other's neighbor. First Concom, is this gonna change the NOI before us?
We are continued until the December hearing date, at which time we're going to update the commission on all the plan revisions.
Okay, because
There's
we haven't heard much for.
For a long time, correct? Yeah, no, all, as far as an environmental impact, this will be a little bit less, but, you know, nothing significant.
It was,
Because everything's
if I
shrunk a
remember, it
little.
was the recharge rate, as you mentioned, was significantly on the positive, so it was pretty clean.
Yeah.
One of the cleaner sites we've seen.
Mhm.
From
Yeah,
the
we had-
neighbor perspective is, pulling out of Camp Bawa.
Mhm.
The rise over the bridge. The cars on the far side of the bridge are blind to you. Mostly. As you're pulling out. You may have that similar situation here. And they're coming
Yeah.
over the bridge at a fair clip.
Yeah, and that, I believe it was actually in the peer review, but I know the site distances were added to this to make sure that it met the ASHTO.
Yeah.
Which I think is 250 feet for a 35-foot, 35 mile per hour
Yep.
road, so. And these are in exceedance of 350, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah. There you go. It's on this plan, Steve, but yeah,
It's on the, plans are on the portal,
yes, yeah, these updated
planning
ones.
board portal.
Yes,
I'll look at them then.
yeah. It's not really a portal, it's a page. We're not as fancy as Concom. So,
Yeah,
yet, yeah, so, all right, so with that. If we're.
hold on, there's one more question.
Oh, sorry.
Want to make a comment. Jeff Prescott, 314 Maple Street, also a member of the Historical Commission. I know with a previous meeting, you had asked about historical significance, and actually that area, the only thing I asked, it was called Qua Hill at one point. And so maybe if you're looking for a name for the building or the project or whatever, you might consider that as something to kind of.
Thank you for the input. I
Yeah,
never know
this-
now.
So that kind of went away with 495, but there was a farm there that they took. And that area was, I don't know where it came from, obviously in the name, but.
Yep.
Interesting.
But that area was considered Qua Hill.
Okay,
And I think you're proposing a monument sign, so that would probably be a good.
Yep.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you.
thank you, sir. Anything else?
I have a couple of questions.
Of course.
So with regard to the tree analysis, and I could be wrong, but my memory is that I believe the applicant clear cutted some of the site, perhaps not in compliance with any of the town rules. So with regard to the number of trees that need to be replaced, those trees that have been clear cutted prior to this submittal, I think should be included in that analysis.
so there's been a driveway there.
Not very long.
Now,
No,
I
it
think
was,
it's at least since 2019.
well, so maybe that's so.
So the current applicant just purchased the property about a year ago. The previous applicant owns a landscaping, among other things, firm
Okay.
who was using that area, cleared it. They received like a cease and desist from Conservation Commission, which they adhered to. And then this current applicant he's not utilizing the land at all. He's waiting
Okay,
for this.
so,
So,
yeah, so it seems like not that long ago, but
Right.
my memory is that they cut it without permission.
Possibly, yeah, that's
And-
before I was involved, yeah.
So be a little.
So I
gentle.
could well, yeah, I'll take a look at where the driveway is and the width from the right of way to, we'll figure out, maybe we can make a guesstimate.
Okay.
Yeah, because one thing too, with the quantification, it's trees within the right of way. So
Right.
just, but I.
Yeah, I
agree
know
with
you
it
can't go
might-
back in the lot.
Yeah,
but,
it might be a good idea, if there is a way to quantify it a bit,
I mean, all the growth there is very similar, so I can just put the existing driveway is X square feet, our new driveway is X square feet, and this map. Yeah.
That would be helpful.
And then, with regard to, the use of the property, in addition to employee parking, will there be tenant truck storage on site?
The only vehicular storage would have to be interior to the building, so like they would be able to park a van, one of their vans or a box truck inside. None of the parking spaces are proposed or anticipated to accommodate those size vehicles. These are all, standard parking spaces, so.
So
Yeah.
if there was a condition where, those kinds of vehicles would be parked and stored inside, that would be
That's fine.
Okay.
And conversely, we could prohibit them from outside.
Yeah, we've had conditions where I think the term was outdoor fleet storage.
Yeah.
Because that was also for that land use high potential pollutant load.
Yep.
Yeah, the applicant's not gonna want one tenant to upset the other four, right, obviously, so I think that's perfectly reasonable.
And then in terms of outdoor material storage equipment or.
I would say that's the same, there's no place for it,
No place.
so,
So we
yeah.
could,
If there was like a big open paved area, I've seen industrial parks where tenants will put up their own fences and
yeah. we
take
just
the
don't want-
parking spaces, I don't think there's any room for that whatsoever.
Yeah. And as someone that travels Maple Street in the north to south direction almost every day, and 35 is, people don't go 35.
Right.
I too was surprised to see the driveway shifted closer to the bridge, because I know just from experience that area is difficult to see until you're there.
Yeah.
And,
That drive, that's the original location, we just got rid of the southern location.
right, and
And I'd like to keep the southern location, but then because we had to lift the site up to accommodate, stormwater standards, the driveway, you couldn't access the site. You'd be at like 18 to 20% driveway, so that's why we had to lose that, but that would have been perfect for us.
right, so I'm still concerned about that. I think I raised that previously, is that you come up on that quick,
Yeah,
so that,
yeah, the peer review asked us to utilize ASHTO to design that or to verify it, and that's what we did, so.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I still.
But I agree, I understand, if it's, they're not going the speed limit.
No one does, and you come over
Right.
that, you come over that and it's, so that to me is a significant concern. I agree with your assessment about noise. Give us something to review and then we can decide whether a noise study is warranted. And then if there was a way for you to, and this might be part of our new process, to receive an elevation of what this is gonna look like from Maple Street, and also from 495, because other projects that have come before us along
Yeah.
the 495 corridor, we've asked principally not to see it.
Right. So we didn't do, this is a previous rendering that'll be updated, I'm assuming. We didn't do a rendering from a 495 because you won't see it because of the ledge. You just won't, all you'll see is ledge from 495. You'll never see this building. So this was one of the renderings that was done. You can tell this is on the previous iteration because of the truck dock here, but that gives you an idea. And again, we're not showing evergreens out front. We're going to be showing some trees instead. But that was one of the renderings they had provided. And then that's another one. So you can kind of see the ledge. I don't think it's quite that dramatically high, but it's higher than the building on 495. So when you cut into it, and, build your wall, you won't even be able to see 495 or vice versa. So, but that's kind of just like, and again, this shows you the two driveways return. So this is based on the previous iteration.
If it's possible to show a little bit more imagination with the design of the building, I know it's not strictly before us, but that's, you know, that's a bit of a ugly building. If there's a way to do something to
Break it up.
break it up, make it look nicer,
Yeah,
something would be greatly appreciated.
okay.
And to that point, I'm glad you mentioned this because I forgot that we had the outdated rendering. I think based on past issues with other projects, using a rendering to condition the actual building design can kind of blow up in our face, as we've all witnessed. So what I would recommend, this is very nice, but rather than a rendering, just an elevation
Yeah,
building.
I think I might have elevations that are more current as well. So these are the preliminary for preliminary architecturals. Let me just see if there was any.
All right, so there's the floor plan.
There is a floor plan that exists, yes. This next page should be elevations.
Yeah, so that's gonna be.
Yeah.
I don't think those were submitted.
They may have been after the submission of Rev 3. I can
Okay.
check, but
Yeah,
we'll obviously submit them.
Yeah, I definitely do not have those in the file.
Yeah, if you could make that look a little bit more appealing.
I can ask. I can't do it. I'm not that creative.
Fair enough. Well, I don't think that was the emphasis
Yeah,
in this
Yeah.
particular proposal.
I think what he's saying is, we just want the look broken up,
oh, I
so
understand.
you can
Yeah,
add some depth
Yeah.
to it,
yeah,
so it doesn't look like a standard
yeah,
surface bay building.
sure.
Those doors are gonna pull box trucks into,
These,
the bigger doors there.
these will, yeah. This is the rear of the site, so it's just man doors. Any
Hang on the-
potential office would be there.
I think on the plans that you
It
have,
might be opposite of that.
well, you have overhead doors front and back,
Okay.
so it's a
Yeah,
drive
so
through.
this probably needs to be updated, because I think this came before.
Okay, makes
Yeah.
sense.
Were you looking to have the doors strictly in the back?
No, the proposal is to have them in the front and the back, like I talked
Front and
about. Yeah. Yeah, so you have multiple access points. I think that's important for contractors.
How far off the street is it?
The building?
Yeah.
$70 feet from the what right of way?
So I know on the noise topic, based on your description of the use, would it be a reasonable assumption that the most noise we're gonna hear comes from the trucks that go in and out? And.
Yeah, at the
nothing-
driveway.
Nothing beyond
Nothing else,
that?
no. Not 70 feet with the landscape buffer.
Okay.
And that's to the right of way, not the paved surfaces. And that's why we're here with the scenic roads, because there's a decent amount of trees in the right of way.
And as Brian had mentioned with the visuals, anything in the roof we'll try to hide as best you can,
Rooftop units, yeah.
okay? Any other questions? Any questions from the public? Before we move on for the vote on continuance?
Yeah, so with that, oh,
Sorry, yeah. So will this be gated or chained off or anything like that, or any other security purposes for at night to prevent people from kind of going in there, turning around, things like that?
No, there's no security fencing proposed. There's some security type lighting, wall packs proposed. And on the plans, there is zero spillover with those lights, but that's all the security there is right now.
And if I believe the hours were not 24 hours?
What's that?
What are your hours anticipating to be?
Oh, typical contractor type hours, 7 to 5.
So that's what I thought. I thought
Yeah,
maybe,
no 24 hours.
No Sundays and limited.
I don't think weekends, no, are anticipated as
That'd be
well.
great.
Yeah. Again, not knowing the exact businesses, it's hard to tell, but we all kind of know who's gonna rent these
Okay.
things.
Mayor, thank you very much for the questions. Anyone else? Anyone in the audience? There's no one.
No, all right. So the continuation is for December 12th for both of these.
Yep.
Let me just check the deadline, because I think we're gonna need. So right now, the decision deadline is December 13th, so we're gonna need an extension on that. Can we aim? Can we aim for that after the second meeting in January, just as a placeholder?
Sure.
All right, so that'll be January,
7:03.
no, wouldn't be
Oh,
January.
no, I'm sorry, excuse me, you're right. Mistake, please.
Don't do that, Mr. Chair. That's,
The 24th, perhaps?
it would be January 24th,
Thank you for correcting.
no problem, keeping me on my toes. All right, so January 24th.
January, what?
December 12th.
Oh, December 12th.
Decision. I think we need to.
And
we
Just
didn't make-
one,
Just one about.
just one motion to continue the public hearing to December 12th.
so,
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Nick, I.
Brian, I.
Bill, aye.
Bye.
The motion passes unanimously. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Enjoy your Thanksgiving.
You as well.
Oh, thank you. Excellent. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thanks for the agenda. I think the only thing we have left
Is the meeting
is
minute?
the meeting minutes from the October 24th meeting.
Correct.
I didn't have any substantive changes other than for the other additional officials present. I believe the chief was here. I don't know if he's an official.
I consider him an exception.
Will be an official?
Or?
For the
The
purpose of
minutes.
minutes.
I think-
Oh, these are the warrant articles, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's relevant, considering
It's relevant.
you had a lot to say.
I'm adding it.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
Oh, thanks.
Been promoted.
There's no pay raise.
Demoted.
Yeah,
You've been
demoted,
demoted.
yeah, exactly.
Hanging out with us. Hanging out with us.
All right, so that can be added.
Anyone else, any questions? Have to call for motion to approve the minutes for the October 24th meeting.
Second, Nick.
Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Nick, I.
Brian, I.
Bill, aye.
Bill,
Motion passes unanimously.
Move to adjourn?
Yes,
All right, moved.
second,
Second, Nick,
all in favor?
Nick, aye.
Brian, aye?
Bill, aye.
So I.
Eli.
That motion passes unanimously.
Good night, Bellingham.
Excellent.